Hello and welcome, I'm Tafara Gadamu. Women again are being recognized for the extraordinary work they have done in their communities. In this year's edition, the Association of Women in Business has screened 5 women for the much coveted Women of Excellence Award. Well, I'm joined by the outgoing president of the Association of Women in Business, AWiB Sawit, the incoming president, Felekech and one of the nominees, Dr. Selamenesh. A very warm welcome to the program.
Thank you.
So, how many nominees do we have?
This year we have 5 nominees. It's the average number. Each year we honor 5 women. We have AWiB Bethlehem Brahanu, Dr. Selamenesh Tigist Waltenagus, and Zaf Waldezadik, pharmaceutical expert. So we have 5 this year.
And we have only one nominee who's joining us tonight.
Yes.
And they all come from diverse backgrounds, right?
Very diverse. Zaf is from the pharmaceutical sector, as I mentioned. Tigist is a psychosocial expert, a radio show host. Dr. Selamenesh is a pediatric doctor. Her expertise is in pediatrics and children's health, I think. Child health. Bethlehem Brahanu is an entrepreneur. Quite a prominent entrepreneur, and AWiB is a playwright, an artist. Plenty of things. Journalist, so many different things. She's an icon.
Age-wise, most of them are relatively young,
yes,
right,
so
or younger.
It's from late 20s to high 40s. So it's a good, diverse crowd of 5 amazing women.
How many I know that you open the competition and then you advertise that and then you have X number of women applying for.
Every December we do a call for applications. It's open until April, and we just accept basically everyone's nomination, but there's a screening process. So on average we get 20 to 100 nominations.
How many this year?
It was around a little over 20 this year. We were not, we're thinking maybe the pool is running dry, but I'm kind of thinking it's not. But there were over 20.
There were plenty more the year before.
There were plenty more the year before. It varies. I think it depends on the press coverage. It depends on how many visits we have to the website. So it's all who's feeling up to nominating somebody. We take those nominations, we screen them, we ask the people that are nominating why they're nominating these women, and there are of course criteria. These have to be prominent women that have impacted their own field in a certain way. They have to be community or service oriented, and they have to have a special interest in women. So if they meet that criteria, then they move on to the next step of the.
But does that mean that all the women who are applying for this, filing their application or being nominated, have to be prominent enough to get here? What does prominent mean?
So prominent in the sense they have to have an impact in their community. So they don't have to be big, because there are a lot of women that are out there that do a lot for their community, but nobody knows about them. That is why we ask for a nomination, open call towards everyone in the society. When we say prominent, it's in terms of their impact, what they have, reaching out outside of their family and going outside, above and beyond.
Dr. Selamenesh, who nominated you?
It was one of AWiB's member. She's Roman Tafesawork.
So that's news to you guys too, all right?
It is.
Okay. I understand you did quite an impressive intervention. In a way, it is not that traditional. In other words, we see you've developed a concept for hosting patients who come to town but have no place to stay. In most cases, I wouldn't say downtrodden, that's a little bit too rude, but they don't have the means, the resources to stay in hotels or do this and that until they get their treatment in hospitals in this city. That's pretty interesting. But how it came with your encounter with one of the patients when you were an intern at Yekatit Hospital. His name is Alemayo.
Yes.
A young guy from where?
Ambo.
From Ambo. Tell me the story.
Alemayo is like in the mid-30s, so he came from, referred from Ambo Hospital. And that day I was on duty in the surgical department at Yekatit 12 Hospital. And I found the patient, and he had a fracture over the elbows, which could not be managed at Yekatit. So I had to refer him to Tukur Ambassa. And when I told him that we cannot manage him there, he started crying. So I was very shocked, and I let him sit, and I asked his story. And he told me that he came from Ambo walking for 3 days, and he has not eaten anything. For those 3 days, he was just having a water sip on his way here, and he was very tired. It was around 9 p.m. So he told me he doesn't know where Tukur Ambassa is, and he doesn't want to go anywhere from there. So I just talked to my friends, and we dined with him, and I let him stay in the hospital, having permission from the guards. And the next day we gave him some money and sent him to the Tukur Ambassa Hospital.
And that night, a great idea was born. Is that correct?
Yeah, actually, the idea came. I always share what I experience in my workplace with my friends, and the next day I was sharing Alemayo's story with my fiance, and he told me that you always tell me such kind of stories since you've become an intern. So why don't you do something permanent for these people? Why don't you institutionalize the support? And then I shared that idea to my other 15 friends from high school and from medical school, and then we build on the idea.
It's pretty interesting, isn't it? I mean, it's very unusual. How often do you face these kinds of issues? Wherever you go to clinics or in the hospitals, but it never occurs to us to do something about it. Is that? I mean, that's
at least not at this scale. I mean, I've heard of doctors, even teachers, taking out of their own pockets to give to less fortunate patients, to less fortunate students, but she's turned it into an institution. That's incredible.
You can't. You'd end up draining your pocket, right? I mean, you've got to do something. Well, what came next? I mean, so it was all about providing shelter, right? I mean, they have to have.
So the main problem patients like Alemayo face is that they have no money to pay for a shelter while staying for their medical attendance, and they don't have money for food, and even if they finish their medical intervention, they don't have money to go back home. So they just they stay by the hospital corridors and on the streets. So we just focused on these 3 issues, but before we institutionalize the support, we wanted to know how grave the problem was. So we prepared a questionnaire for patients and for the doctors separately, and we distributed it to 7 hospitals in Addis Ababa. And then we retrieved the questionnaires and we analyzed what we found from Tukur Ambassa Hospital. And when we do that at first, we found out that there were 70 people in Tukur Ambassa facing similar problem. So that shocked us, and we didn't even go to analyzing the other hospitals' finding. So we just wrote our proposal based on that number, and we took our proposal to the then medical director of the Tukur Ambassa Hospital, Dr. Ahmed Reja, and he was very supportive, and he told us that the problem has been there for decades, and all of them, they were taking out of their pocket to help these people. So, but in the process, they got burnt out, so they just left helping.
You can only go that far, yes.
So everybody was just considering the problem as normal, and they were just passing by. So he was happy that we were having it in a proposal, and he told us to take the proposal to the president of Addis Ababa University. And then Professor Admasu Tsaggayi was there, and he was very much supportive. So he was so happy, he wrote recommendation letter to the Ministry of Health. And at the Ministry of Health, when they hear about the story and what we did, they allowed us to meet the Deputy Minister, Dr. Amir. the current Minister of Health. So Dr. Amir was very supportive. They edited our proposal and they approved it. So we got a legal license by 2014.
Well, it's one thing to have an idea, but quite different to kind of pull resources to make it happen.
Yeah, that is what is amazing about the story, is that, from just one simple idea, just an idea to help someone for one day turned into something bigger and more impactful that could help over 50 people on average. So that's why Women of Excellence is done, so that people can see such inspirations and realize that they themselves can be the solution. We don't need to go outside of our community to see that there are solutions that we can implement ourselves locally, just from a simple idea.
So you were looking for resources, right? But they were not easy in coming, right? You had to kind of spend some time to be able to convince institutions come aboard.
It was very difficult, actually. What we first did was we collected support letters from all the stakeholders, from Addis Ababa University, from our hospital, the Tukur Anbessa Hospital, and from the Ministry of Health. And then we used that support letters along with our proposal. Actually, it was, again, a coincidence because, again, my fiancé was organizing an event and he was going to the Defense Construction Enterprise to ask for a sponsorship. So I was with him and I went there. And when he asked about his event, they said that they are more interested in medical things, something that can improve the medical service. Then I intervened and then I told them about my project. So then it was Engineer Abtamu Kasaon. He was a very positive person, and he promised us that if we manage to get a land, then they will do the construction for free.
You went ahead and got that piece of land.
Yes. Then we asked him, can you just put that in a writing so that we can show it to the Ministry of Health? Then he was keen enough to write the promise. So we took the promise and showed to the Ministry of Health. And Dr. Amir advised us to get a piece of land inside Taklaimanot Health Center.
Which is close to the Black Lion Hospital where you first sent your body.
Yes.
For treatment. Partnership, a very interesting word, right?
Yeah, this year we've been trying to promote corporate social responsibility, responsible leadership, which is one of our mottos, and it's what we want to promote. And this is beyond, as you implied earlier, success is very subjective. And one of the most important things is that businesses that have soul, that are not just thinking about their bottom line, but the triple bottom line about their environment, the people around them, as well as their profits, like this, enable ideas such as Selamanesh's to flourish, and business people. I mean, Zaf Wolde Tzadik, for example, is a very socially conscious, disruptive businesswoman. If you've seen her profile, she ensures that her business is run with integrity, and that is a role model to look up to. It's not just about accumulating wealth or being successful in your sector. It's also about impacting your community.
Making medicines affordable.
Making medicine affordable, enabling access to those that can't afford it. She gives away free diabetic medicine to an area in Adama. She ensures that competition within the pharmaceutical sector is fair. We have so many of these kinds of businesswomen that have gone through the AWiB's Women of Excellence process, and we were very much impressed with Zaf's story. Same with Bethlehem Brahane. She hires marginalized portion of our community, HIV positive people, to work in her manufacturing business, doing artisan products, and this is, again, business with integrity and soul. AWiB has a definite feminist tint or component to almost everything that she does. And she's a positive disruptor for women's equality in her field. Same with Tigist Waltenagus. She does psychosocial support. She has a business, but it's more of a social enterprise because there's a definite social responsibility to it. And we were talking about this and we were thinking, these are people that are supporting their community and ensuring that essential services are available to the people that need it most. And you don't have to be a civil servant or a politician to do it. These are women from so many different walks of life that are working and putting a labor of love into everything that they do. And these are people that my son and my daughter could be inspired by. These are role models to look up to, and AWiB is actually very proud to be presenting them to.
Quite a pool out there that you're not done tapping into, right?
Yes, there's quite a few. It's just, when you're asked to nominate someone, most of the time you start, you just go blank and realize, oh, I don't have anyone to nominate. But when you see these people that have been nominated, you realize there could be a person that's sitting right next to you that you can nominate because they have had an impact. They work beyond themselves. And what's very interesting about these nominees is, if you notice in their stories, all of them started from their personal experience. That's what they took they took that experience and said, if I'm experiencing this, then there are other people that are experiencing it. How can I solve that problem? So them solving this personal problem for themselves and realizing they can do the same for the community is what really enlarged their impact and brought them to the nomination stage.
What do they need to have? I mean, it's passion, commitment, and the courage to do it. And what is it that pushes these young girls and women to do what they do?
I think one...
How many have done that for the last 10 years, nominating excellent
50 plus.
Yes.
50 plus right now.
Yeah.
Yes, including this year.
So what drives them?
I don't know. I think one would be, again, personal experience, right? The personal pain that you go through to overcome something, you realize, that has made you a better person, a more stronger person. And if you can emulate that to other people, that is something that you can help. And the desire and the want to serve other people, to work outside of themselves and their families. Most of the time, a lot of people go to work every day, come home for their family, right? But these women, they go beyond that. They see that the entire community is their family. And that's what they're working towards, to improve that living standard, the community, because we all live in one place and we share that every day, right? So I think that is the common theme that I've noticed across all the nominees.
They're definitely bold. That's something. There's a lot of courage to be a positive disruptor in any field. That's something, to be able to walk into somebody's office and say, hey, I have a project. What do you think? Going from ministry to ministry, ensuring your proposal succeeds is boldness, and that's the kind of women that AWiB tries to create, women with integrity and boldness and responsibility to their community to lead.
What gets you going? I mean, it's not an easy project. You've made an impact. What is it? You've reached, you've served what, over 150,000? Was it 100? How many people have you?
For the lunch service, because we started.
So okay, let me rewind a bit. So you've built that facility, right, where patients can stay up until they get their treatment in any given hospital and so on, right? And there is also the feeding part to it.
So the feeding service, we started it earlier because although it seems like everybody was supportive at first, all the officials were supportive, but we had difficulties to get permission to build the building over that land after receiving the land and after having the volunteers who could build the land, the construction for free. So that process, it took 2 years, and it costed us a lot of things, including losing some of my friends and my time, because it was
discouraged?
Yes, they were discouraged, and they thought that it would not happen because it seemed like it would not happen. They wouldn't allow us to do it. So through those things, what didn't stop us or what pushed us to move forward was that we started the feeding program early, a month after we get the license, and we saw the response from the patients. And the patients, they were so hopeful to see that there are doctors who care for their economic and social problems besides what they are having, besides the illness. So the response from the patients, that was the most important driving force for us. So I believe everyone is working just to have a peaceful mind. So the target of everyone's work, be it business or volunteer work or anything, is to have a peaceful mind and to sleep peacefully. So the passion, commitment, and perseverance are just the leading point to that peace.
Easier said than done.
Yeah, yeah. So for me and for my friends, knowing that a person is getting a treatment while being fed was the most important thing for us. And so we just wanted, we never wanted to stop being that hope for the patients. That was the leading force for us.
It's quite challenging, right, to be young and a woman and be able to get to like where she is now, succeeded in achieving what she wanted to in the first place.
Yeah, but again, you have young women in positions of leadership, and it's a positive disruption that will make something amazing happen within our community. Yes, there are burdens. There's the triple burden. You have your home life, you have your work life, and you have your social responsibilities. But I am a firm believer that women, especially young women, are versatile, and they're tenacious, and they have what it takes to thrive given the chance and given the opportunities, and a lot of young women don't even need you to provide them an opportunity. They make things happen on their own. Yeah.
It comes to the parents, right? I mean, in her case, it's your mom, right?
Yes, it's my mother.
She wanted you to tell the truth, speak, and also to be frugal.
Yes, yes, she did. So she raised me in a way. Although she didn't allow me to be outside of the house, inside our home, she raised me in a way to be a very responsible and generous and to think about others before myself. So I came from a poor family, but I always see my mother sharing whatever she has with her neighbors and somebody else. So that really influenced me.
You were born the year... in 1991, right? That was an end of an era.
Yes. Yes, exactly on the end of the era.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you had to cross the border and come from Asmara. You were born in Asmara and come to Ethiopia. When you were 4 months old?
No, 2 days old.
Oh, 2 days old.
She had to carry me, to bring me to Addis Ababa because she was persistent that I get to meet my father.
And your father was no longer in Asmara?
No, he flew with the, as he told me, he flew with the army to Addis Ababa.
He was a soldier?
Yes, he was a soldier.
What do you make of the rapprochement? This is a side question, between Ethiopia and Eritrea. I mean, 30 years down the road. Could it have been any different had you grown up in Asmara instead of Ethiopia, Addis Ababa?
Maybe, yeah, because my mother tells me so many good things of what she had while she was there, and everything changed when she comes here because she lost everything.
And she was deported, basically. She was told to leave.
Yes, yes. She was having a stable business while she was there, and she was managing by herself. She didn't need any support from her husband to do anything. So when we come here, everything changed. She had to be under the support of my father. So it was a challenge growing up, and I always felt responsible to change my family's life.
Well, how easy is it for young girls of her age to be mentored by their mothers? Because she must have, although she was a hard-working woman, your mother, that is, it's not so many women that can do that for their children, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's not the way they were brought up to right? I mean, mentorship, that's what I'm basically talking about.
Yeah, so that is also one of the pillars of AWiB, is to create mentorship between the young generation and the old that have, more experienced women. And in her case, she's very fortunate because she had her mom that has done so much to raise her and show her, the right way of doing things and caring for other people. Not so many people might be that lucky to have a parent to look up to that has done so much and that has faced a lot of challenges. That is why one of our goals through the Women of Excellence is to create role models for younger women, to be able to see someone that looks like them, that has done a lot, that has achieved the higher leadership position, and making having the decision power to make changes and have a positive effect in the community. So her having a role model from her mother, and her now is in a place to be a role model for the entire country, for all the younger kids, the younger men and women, for them to see that you don't have to be old and wise to do something great and impactful. Just at the age of where you are, all you have to do is understand the problem you are faced with and come up with a solution and scale that, right? That is the takeaway that I see from Dr. Selamenesh, and I think that's an impeccable aspect of her career thus far.
Yeah, if I may add, as a mom, I think motherhood is the highest form of responsible leadership and community service. Women do care work literally for free for their communities, and they are the first role models a child encounters. And that is a substantial responsibility. When AWiB puts up the call for nominations for Women of Excellence, a lot of people nominate their mother for being good mothers. And I think that should be acknowledged as well, because that's where modeling starts within the home. And parenting is the first frontier in terms of modeling for young children to be better human beings in general. And motherhood is the highest form of unpaid care work, which maybe should have a price tag.
Interesting. Interesting. That's priceless, I guess. So, we have 5 nominees now. You have a big event on this coming Sunday. This 5 nominees are from Addis Ababa.
Yeah.
It's pretty much skewed. I mean, we've been doing this interview for many years now. Quite often what you find is people, as nominees, people from basically, in large measure, from Addis Ababa.
In your green room, we were talking about how impartial this is, and we don't get involved in this process. We just do the...
But what do you need to do to encourage people from outside of Addis to be part of this process?
I think we should have support to our communications. First of all, AWiB is a volunteer organization. We're a volunteer-led, locally funded organization, and we do what we can. And we are more than happy to have as many different women as possible to honor. We would be so glad for 2020 to have as diverse set of women as possible, but I think we need an augmented communication in this call for nominations, so that support exists. So perhaps the media, like you support us through these interviews and through introducing these women to the public, the media should support in augmenting this call for nominations.
So are you, you're going to be the chair, the president, incoming.
Yes, incoming.
What are you going to do about that? Not that you have done nothing about it, but you've got to be the chair.
In any leadership forum, one leader builds on top of the other, right? So she has done an amazing job, and it's an honor to take the helm from her. Just to set the record straight, though, if we look back on the other nominees in the past, there have been nominees that are outside of Addis, as far out as, I believe, Afar. Gambela. So we do go outside of Addis. It's just that sometimes when the nomination comes and when we're announcing these nominations on the media, it might be, it's the time of day when someone listens on the radio and the type of media we've been using. One thing we did comment, we did realize this year, we might have used only a few media outlets to announce these nominations. So maybe next year, that's one thing we're going to work on to make sure that we do the outreach in different media platforms so that the reach could be more wider. And like you said, to get a wider pool. But we're very sure that there are women outside of Addis that do amazing things.
So there is a prize money, right, for this?
Yes.
Is it the same 100K?
It is the same 100K, but something that we need to understand is this is a very resource-intensive labor of love. We don't want to have any winners. These 5 nominees are going to be equally celebrated on Sunday and beyond. But we need to have a title holder that will pass on the baton to the next year's nominees. So that title holder will have 100,000 birr to donate to a cause of her choice.
Have you made your choice in case you win?
You're well prepared.
Which will be good job, obviously.
To your very organization, okay.
It's not going directly to their pockets. It's the cause of their choice. Yes, yes.
Well, good luck, and it's a pleasure, real pleasure, to have you on the show. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us, Tafara.
It was very, very interesting. Keep it up.
Thank you
very much, and good luck with the new job.